Hey everyone, this is Dean, and welcome to Strange But Real. Grab your cup of coffee, grab a beer, grab some snacks, whatever you need to grab, and let's jump into today's video. Alright guys, let's jump into these stories. I got a couple great ones for you today. The first one is from some people from California. They're doing a camping trip in Oregon, and they have an exciting Bigfoot encounter. So this one's really wild. I want to share this with you, and then I got another one afterwards that's kind of Bigfoot and mysterious related as well. So let's jump into these stories. Two of my friends and I, we live in Northern California. We're on a fly fishing trip from Mount Hood, Oregon. We made our way to the east and linked up on the Rogue River, then down to Hat Creek and the Pitt River. This area took place, and then they've got a map here where it took place. We were not in a campground that you can reserve online. It was super primitive. We fished the entire day, and then at like 5 or 6 p.m., we made our way upriver to the campsite. We hiked a few miles downstream and fished our way up. Blank ant size pattern, number 18, if anyone was wondering. There was a group of 3 other fly fishermen, classic Toyota Tacoma dudes, about 50 feet to the east or upriver at about 7 p.m. It's still lit up because it's the end of summer. We were cooking bratwurst over the fire pit. We started to hear like a rustling, branches breaking somewhere in the forest upstream. This is where the most chaotic mayhem and slow motion event of my life unfolded. The campers that were like 50 feet away were running toward us at full speed and yelled, "Holy F, did you see that thing?" And they had this look of terror. Literally before that sentence was even finished, this low bass, super loud roar came from the tree line that wasn't more than 20 feet away, and this full-size buck comes sliding out on its side, legs kicking in the air because it's trying to get traction. Imagine a house cat sliding across the house like an ice rink. The deer looks towards the forest where it came from, and all of our eyes followed. And there was a gigantic creature standing there, like 8, 9, 10 feet tall, human thing covered in hair. It was the same color as a Rottweiler, like dark brown and black all over, light brown around its face and hands, probably 2 or 3 inches of long hair. It was pure confusion. Us humans didn't move. The Bigfoot didn't move. The deer just stood there. None of us moved for like another minute. Then the Bigfoot just left, walking like a human with a stride on a scale with a person that size. Walked up the bank, across a dirt road, and then up a hill or mountainside. The deer darted off down the river to my west. I don't have an answer as to why we didn't pack up and leave, because when I play this scenario in my head, I pack up and leave. But I think we were all in shock. The other campers moved one tent into our campsite and slept in one tent, and my 2 friends and I slept in my 2-person tent. The next morning we left. There was a dead deer between our truck and the campsite. I can't say for sure if it was the same one, but its rib cage was split open and everything gone from the inside. We asked ourselves if it could have been poachers, but nothing important was taken. I was so beyond being scared that night, and for a solid month after. I remember that it made me feel like barfing, and I still get nauseous thinking about telling the story. It was so effing weird, I don't even think it was going to kill us. It was more like something I saw that I wasn't supposed to see, and it was something that I was told was not supposed to exist. So that's a really interesting story. I couldn't imagine experiencing something like that. My buddies, I'm just here at a campsite, making bratwurst over the fire, and then some deer just comes bolting into the camp, and other campers from nearby just come running through the camp screaming, and then you look and see this Bigfoot creature standing there all confused, and it's like, it's just like, that would just be a crazy event that would happen. But at least it wasn't too terrifying. Like, it didn't like scream at them or threaten them in any way, it sounds like, but still that would be like a freaked out situation. So I can't even imagine what that would be like. We'll get into the next story here. This one's interesting. This one is a Bigfoot story, but also has some other paranormal elements to it. So let's jump into this one. I'm now a firm believer, and so are 2 other guys. This is a long-ass read. I apologize for writing a novel, but I had to get this out there and tell people what me and two other guys experienced. Anyway, I live in the Pacific Northwest on 82 acres, and it's pretty rural. My property backs up into thousands of acres of privately owned timberland, Weyerhaeuser, Port Blakely, etc. I have one neighbor about 100 yards past my house. We live on a dead-end road that just so happens to end at a cemetery. My property borders that said cemetery. A few days ago, me and my buddy were loading up a truck and getting ready to go out and cut some firewood. It was about 5 a.m., so the sun wasn't up yet. I have a few extremely bright LED auxiliary lights on my work truck. I mean, these things light up the night like it's daytime. I was parked facing my open field that has a heavily wooded tree line about 50 yards away from where we were parked loading up our gear for the day. I had all 6 of my auxiliary lights blasting out into the field so that we could see what we were doing. The field was lit up like the 4th of effing July, all the way to the tree line and then some. Directly across the field on the one-way dead-end road is my neighbor's house. He's about 100 yards from my field up on a little bit of a hill. He has a perfectly clear view of my field and tree line. My buddy, who was with me, walked off to the side of my truck to pop a piss and get rid of some coffee. I was walking towards my shop to grab more gear, and I hear this weird screeching or howling sound. At first, I thought it was my buddy dragging something across the metal flatbed of my truck. I turned around to ask him what the heck he was doing, and I start to see something dark-colored hauling ass into the tree line. At first, I thought it was a black bear. They're pretty common around here, but then I realized it's walking on 2 feet with its arms swinging. I'm in work mode, so I continue to head towards the shop to grab my chainsaw, not really registering what I had just seen. All of a sudden, my neighbor's truck comes tearing ass out of his driveway. I'm thinking, damn Jade, my neighbor, he's in a big-ass hurry to get to work this morning. He comes flying into where my truck's parked and bails out of his truck and says, "Did you MFers just hear and see that shit?" Before I could respond, my buddy says, "Dude, what the F was that?" My buddy looks scared shitless. It all finally registers in my brain, and I say, "What was that howl or scream? And what the F is that thing running in the woods?" My neighbor Jade says, "That damn thing was a Bigfoot, dude. No way in F it was a bear. I watched it well into the tree line, and it stayed on 2 feet, running like an effing human." My buddy confirms this by nodding his head, and he's still white as a ghost. Around 5 a.m., I have heard the same howl or yell on several occasions, witnessed by other people as well. Sometimes I can hear what sounds like big-ass sticks hitting something. I'm guessing it's a tree since it has a solid thud sound. Oddly enough, there's been a story I've heard about multiple people out here about an 8-foot-tall man. I always thought it was just some story to scare us kids. Now I'm thinking there's absolutely some truth behind it. I've always believed in cryptids and things of that nature. The property I live on has been in my family since the early 1900s. I inherited it a few years back. I grew up here, then moved away for a while. About 5 years ago, I built a shop and house on the edge of the property that's closest to the cemetery. This is unrelated to Bigfoot stuff, but I've experienced things here that I don't tell people because they'd think I was full of shit or just insane. Anytime I have guests over and we're hanging out late, something weird always happens. Recently, I had this woman's hair pulled so hard that it unsnapped the hat she was wearing. Freaked her the F out. A couple of days later, my other friend and her girlfriend were here hanging out, and I was telling them about the chick that had her hair pulled. They were both chuckling a little bit, thinking I was trying to scare them. And right as the clock hit 3 a.m., all of us heard a lady speaking clear as day through the radio. She said, "Don't laugh, it's real." They both froze and looked scared shitless. I looked up towards the speakers where the voice came from, and there is this kid-sized handprint on the ceiling directly above the speaker. I know it wasn't there before because I just set the speakers up that day. The handprint is still there. I have an old dump truck parked in front of my shop that looks like it came out of a horror movie. One of my friends says she always sees a weird-looking dude sitting in the truck. She calls him Dump Truck Dude. This chick is tough as nails, and I've never seen anything scare her before. She won't stay at my house past 2 a.m. anymore. These are just a few experiences that I've had at my house. I've personally experienced way more shit than I can explain, so yeah, I'm 100% firm believer in Bigfoot now. People can think this is just a story, but I don't give an F what anyone says. I know what me and 2 other witnesses saw. It's a pretty compelling story. Him and his neighbor saw this, and his friend, and they've had some other strange experiences as well. It's interesting that they live kind of on a dead-end road out in the middle of nowhere, it sounds like, next to a cemetery. So kind of a spooky area where a lot of paranormal stuff could happen, and really just an interesting story. It's really interesting that they heard that voice come out of the speakers, and the handprint on the ceiling next to the speakers, or next to the walls next to the speakers. Really interesting incident there, and really, I mean, that would just freak me the heck out if something like that happened. But if you've got any strange stories, I would absolutely love to hear them. Anything weird at all, go ahead and email them to me. The email address is strangebutrealstories@gmail.com. Get those sent in to me. You can remain anonymous if you choose to. That's not a problem at all. I'd just love to hear it. I'd like to get your stories out to the audience here, so go ahead and share what you've got. I really would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. I appreciate all of you, and we'll see you on the next video.